tomorrow. She is a content marketing strategist, and she is going to get you heard, get you seen, about people aware of you. We're going to talk today about how to really reach your audience and how to actually reach your prospects so they buy from you, they refer you, they know, like, and trust you. So again, June is a more welcome content marketing strategist. June, what are some of the biggest mistakes? Let's start with mistakes that people make that causes either people to disconnect from them or to turn their audience off, or maybe have their audience lost and have no idea what they do. What would you say?
Yeah. So the number one thing, the biggest mistake that I see people doing is not being clear on who their audience is. Like, it all starts, know thy audience. If you want people to know, like, and trust you, you have to know, like, and trust them, right?
Yep.
And that starts with knowing them. So if you don't know who your audience is, if you are like, I have an idea for a business or a service and I'm going forward and I'm marketing it, why is nobody buying it? Because it's maybe you're being too broad, maybe you're being too general, maybe you're just not clear on what the problems are. So always start by talking to your audience, do your research. So that's I think one of the biggest things that I see people doing. The other thing is recognizing that it takes a while for people to trust you. Know, like, and trust. That takes a while to build that trust. And not everybody who comes into your orbit is going to be ready to buy right away. So a lot of the times it's a relationship game, right?
Yeah.
It's about building a relationship, being patient, nurturing them with that content, keeping in touch with them, but don't expect, don't go in with a hard sell right away, because that's going to really turn off a lot of people, depending on what you're doing. But most businesses, most services, it's not a hard sell. It's building a relationship, getting to know them, and being patient. And recognizing everybody's going to come to you at a different time. And you're not for everybody. Not everybody's going to come to you. But that doesn't mean that anything that you put out there is not of value, because they might know somebody who needs what you have to offer.
And that's the thing. And it's interesting. It's almost, I think, a good thing that not everyone's for you, and not everyone is, and you're not for everyone, because I really don't believe in competition. I think different people, whether you do the exact same thing or not, different people resonate with you, with me, with someone else, with what I do, with what you do. People resonate with different people. Maybe it's an angle of who you are. So I really don't believe in competition. And I love the point how you talk about don't do the hard sell, right? That ABC always be closing from the 70s, 80s, and 90s on. And it's all about relationships, and I think you probably, as you alluded to, we'll talk more about that. It is about getting that trust, getting the rapport, getting them liking you. So what's a great way, again, with content strategy, content marketing, what is a great way to have people know us, like us, trust us, want to do business with us, and think of us first when they need a plumber or a lawyer or a content marketing strategist or whatever, right? What are some really key tips you find that work?
Yeah. So the first thing is to listen to your audience, talk to your audience, listen to them, listen to their problems, listen to what they're going through. And then use that along with kind of who you are to build a connection. So in content marketing, it's almost like a drip, right? I'm talking about your emails, your social media, your blog posts, if you're doing live streams, like depending on what your strategy is, but you're putting out free content, things of value to people. And so it's a mix of giving them free advice, showing your expertise through that advice, and also sharing a little bit about who you are as a person and the things you go through. And then also, helping them get ready to buy with you. So sometimes that's reframing beliefs that they might have that might be keeping them stuck, right? So it's a mix of all these. And so when you're content marketing, you're sending out on a consistent, that's a very important thing too. That's another thing that I see people not doing, is not being consistent, but a consistent basis. You're sending out consistent messaging on these three kind of different levels to help people kind of ease into working with you if they're the right audience for you.
I like that word consistency. There's a statistic I saw recently, and if you send too many emails, obviously people will unsubscribe. However, if you send too few of them, they'll also unsubscribe. It was a really interesting statistic. So like you said, being consistent. One of my problems, quote unquote, I got too busy with my business and everything I do videos. However, for the last year, I haven't been great at sending out my video blogs, blasting because that takes time. It's quick and easy to do a quick video, but to actually create an article and then change it into
all the tags
a blog and blast it to people. So now I have a virtual assistant that does that.
Yes.
So which is key, guys. Export and hire and outsource things that you don't want to do, things that aren't your, like putting stuff online, all this tech stuff. That's not my unique ability. That's not my key ability. It's not my strength. Doing this is and teaching. So when you do your content, maybe have someone else, blast it out and do all the number crunching, the button pushing for you.
Yeah. And the other thing I suggest is if you're not at a place where you feel like you can afford that, keep it simple, right? You don't need to be on every channel.
No, true.
You absolutely don't. And sometimes we make work for ourselves that really isn't necessary. Look at who you are, what your natural strengths are. Like James, your natural strength is speaking and presenting. And, so video is a really great channel for you. But some people it might be writing, some people it might be taking beautiful pictures. And it all depends on your product too, right? If your product is a lifestyle product that's beautiful, you're going to want to be on Instagram. But if you're selling, I don't know, like something that's not like that, like if you're selling plumbing, for example, Instagram might not be the best, right? People don't want to see those pictures. So really be strategic about the channels that you're on and simplify. Yeah.
That's a great point, because a lot of people talk about, I got to be on this channel, or I'm this channel, I'm doing this. I'm like, well, are your people really on there? Like, let's say, not to knock Instagram, like, are all your people on Instagram? Your target market, to your point, are you showing plumbing? Like, where is your target market? I found a ton of value on LinkedIn versus Instagram. Now, I when I have time, or when my VA has time, we upload some of the video recordings I do, but it's not a priority. It's LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube are the priority, because to your point, that's where my people hang out. People get into a big trap with that.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't even need to be on social media. Like if you have a local business, like local marketing is going to be much better for you. And if you are on social media, you can do it organically by hanging out in like Facebook groups for your neighborhood. If you're somebody who is geographic, you serve people in a specific geographic area. So it all really depends on what your goals are, really depends on what your business is. One size does not fit all.
Fair point. I agree. I completely. So a couple questions. So while we're on the subject, because a lot of people, like I said, who haven't been consistent, including myself, what do you recommend for people getting back? Because one of my fears was, are they going to remember me? Are they going to unsubscribe? Are they going to delete my emails? So people that haven't been consistent, or that want to get back on the bandwagon, because again, you start doing this and blasting people and all the content, then you get busy and you don't have the time to do it. So getting back into it, what do you recommend? Getting back into it, how to get back into it, what to say? Hey, sorry, I've missed you. I've been gone. Like, what's a great way to get back into content?
So one thing is realize that even though you send out an email, and it depends on the size of your list, not everybody's going to read your emails. Like really, if you've got a small list, if you've got a list that's under 500 people, for example, the percentage of people opening that is going to be bigger than the percentage of people who open a bigger list, because there's less one-on-one contact, right? They don't know you as well. But still, only like somewhere between 15 to 20, maybe 30% of people will open your emails if you have a smaller list. And the bigger your list is, the lower the rate goes. So if you're getting like 15% or 20% on a large list opening, that's a good thing, right? You're actually doing really well. So take your absence with like, not everybody's like, where did this person go? Why haven't they probably didn't even notice. So, if it's been a while, if you've changed directions, you might want to come in and be like, hey, I'm really excited I've been quiet because I've been changing directions. I've been doing this, but I wanted to, just announce that I'm back here. And if anybody has any questions about this new direction, I'm giving out this free thing, right? Have some sort of opt-in or like we can discuss if this is something that's going to help you. And also if you have changed directions, and as somebody who's changed directions, one thing to do is like, and if this list is no longer what you need, feel free to unsubscribe, no hard feelings, right? So I think it's just touching base and saying, hey, this is what I've been up to. And if I've changed, this is what I'm doing now. I'd love to still serve you. If it's not what you need, that's okay. If you know anybody who needs it, feel free to refer me. But people won't be like, oh, where'd they go? You might have like, they were hardcore subscribers but they might have messaged you already. Where are you going? How come I don't get your emails? Right. So it's not as big a deal to others as it typically feels to you.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so let's talk now, because a lot of people make the mistakes of not picking a targeted specific message to a targeted specific group, aka niche, or niche if you're in the US. what are some of the dangers of this, and what happens if someone just puts out general content because they're worried, well, what if this niche or this people, what if I don't get enough, so I'm going to be more general and I'll just appeal to everyone, or worse yet, the people that are they sell, you know, these MLM makeups, and they're also a coach of some sort, and they're also they belong to a, I don't know, financial MLM, and they also they sell promotional products.
Yeah.
What are some of the dangers here, and how to get away from that?
Yeah, so the danger is of diluting your message, right? People need to know, like, the world is so competitive. We are bombarded with so many messages every day. And if somebody comes to you and says, I have helped people exactly like you with your exact problem, we're more likely to work with them than someone who comes to me and says, I help people who have a generalized problem that might be in the area of what you do. Right. So that's really what you're doing is you disqualify yourself by not being specific. Yeah. Yeah. And I know it's difficult if you're a multi-passionate person who has a lot of different products and services and businesses in different directions. It might be that you're going to need every different type of offer you have is going to need a different marketing strategy, and that's going to double your efforts. So if there's some way you can combine them into, you know, like, I'm an expert in feeling calm in stressful situations for women in middle age, and the way I do this is through this makeup and through financial help and through this, then it's like one solution for one. It's not one solution, it's multiple solutions, but it's one target market, one problem. So if you can have multiple things that solve like one overarching problem, that's okay. But when they're diluted, you just have to realize you're going to be doubling your efforts. And if you're a new business, you're starting out, that could be a challenge. So I say, like, master one thing, then expand.
And pick even with myself, because I'm very fortunate to be an expert at several things, but it's also, it can harm us because, well, which one do I choose? Which one's going to work and which one's not going to work? And am I going to make more money if I do all of them? But it actually harms you in the end. And one of my mentors said, think about this. If you're in a bright room talking to someone and you wave around a flashlight, you turn it on, wave it around. Is anyone going to see the light? No, because the room's already bright. You're not cutting through the noise, if you will. Versus if you take a laser and shine at the wall, or put it on, then people can see the laser on their shirt or on the wall, so because it's laser focused, and you're cutting with that laser message. You're cutting through all the very, like you said, overcrowded market, all the millions of messages we get per day. And you can cut through that. So I like that you said that, and I like that people know to do that versus coming out either with a general, like, diluted message. I mean, do you want a general practitioner to work on your brain, or do you want a brain surgeon that all that he or she's ever done for the last 10, 20, 30 years is work on the brain, right? I mean,
yeah.
Or do you want a general?
That said, I will say there are instances when you want to keep it general, and that's when you're starting out and you don't know what you want to niche in. So I work with a lot of coaches. Like, my particular market is coaches and consultants who work online, and they're within the first 5 years of their business, right? So they're new, and then they're growing, and they're dealing with those growing pains. And for some of them, when they're just new, they don't know who they want to work with because they don't have a lot of experience. So in that case, I would just, go out and do like the freebie or the low cost coaching sessions or the low cost consultations or like assessments to get a clearer sense of what types of people light you up and what types don't, right? But do not ever consider things like Facebook advertising or any paid advertising or any major campaigns until you're clear, like really clear on who specifically, what their specific problem is and the benefits that your product provides to them. Not that you have a product, but what are the benefits? And this is the other thing I see a problem with a lot is people don't understand outcomes, right? They don't understand that people aren't looking for like, make my life better. They're looking for, heal my relationship with my husband so that we don't divorce, or they're looking for, I want to be able to fit into a bikini, or they're looking for, I want a career that makes this much money, or I want a career where I get to express my creativity. So they're looking for solutions, right? And you might think I have something that can help you with, I can help you feel better. I can do this or that, but it's like, what is the end result? So always, and that comes down to knowing your audience, right? What is the end result that they want?
That's it. What do they want? Do they want, do they want the drill, or do they want the hole in the wall? Right. And it's
exactly.
I find too many people, whether it's in copy, whether it's in emailing, posting, conversation, it's like, hi, we're talking all about our features. Hey, I do this and I do that and feature, and this way I can do, and this way I'm so great. But it's like, remember, people don't care. Unfortunately, people don't care about us, but they care about themselves. They care what they can get, what's in it for them. So, I help people with A, B, C, D. I help people get this, avoid this, achieve this, take action on this, so you can blank, whatever, have more money, or not even that's not even far enough. So you can live life and work less and play more, or find a loving relationship. So like you said, be very, very specific, and another idea of being carefully a bit general in the beginning, to go out and talk to people, be curious, ask people. If someone suggests, mentions a problem, it's or a challenge, like, well, I'd love to talk with you about that, see if I can help, or, what do you need around that? And like you said, see not only who you love working with, but then who bores you to death, but also who loves working with you as well. I think that's a really good idea.
Who's coming to you and is really finding value. Yeah, and it might not be who you think. Like, it might not be who you initially think is going to be the person who finds value. But then once you know that, that's really good information. Who is paying you at the end of the day? Who is paying you? And if there's a pattern of people who are paying you and you like working with those people, target those people. Right?
Exactly. And that's the thing, right? Target them. And if they love you, great. Work with them. If not, then you can shift and change. And I guarantee you, your business and your niche and your target will shift and change. It just, that's what happens. It will shift and change, ebb and flow. Mine has several times until you figure out, okay, these are the people I love working with. Now, what about being general? Are you general with your message and what you do, or you still know I'm a brain surgeon, but then you're working with different people, finding out, because you still want to be fairly specific of what you do, even though you're not specific on who you're doing it for when you're starting out. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, if you're starting out, you can say, like, you'll have a broad idea of what you want to do when you start out. Like, you'll know, one way to look at it is like, who am I not for? There was a time when I was just a general life coach when I was learning life coaching, and and I realized, like, people came to me with all sorts of things, like, and then somebody came to me with, like, my brother's an addict. How do I deal with that? And I was like, I'm not for you. Okay, now I know I'm not for that. So you make a list of, like, what situations would really interest you. One way to do it is to look at your own life story and where have you made a transformation in your life that has made a difference that you can share with others. Because typically that's what's motivating in the helping professions, is like, I've made a change, or I've seen people make changes in their life and I want to help them do the same thing. So when you're starting out, you can still be a little specific. Generally you kind of know who what the broad problem is, or like what the broad group of people is, or look at who you don't want to work with and then just say, I want to work with the opposite.
Got it. And avoid that trap of, explaining too many things that you do. Again, like you said earlier, if like June said, if it aligns, help people with their I don't know, their confidence and health, and you have makeup and weight loss stuff and coaching for them, great. But if it's like, well, I sell promotional products, but I'm also a wealth specialist and I sell makeup and I'm a dog walker, it just, people, remember, we have hard enough time remembering what one thing that people do, let alone 2 or 3 or 4 things. So that'll completely, or people in networking groups, they hand me 2 business cards. I'm like, okay, I'm only gonna remember one of these. Or one lady handed me 3 one time and I was like, you're doing it wrong. Please let me suggest, listen, please. I'm like, I'm only gonna remember one of these. Which one of these cards do you want me to take and which one you want to be remembered by? And she was taken a bit aback. I'm like, people are not gonna remember 2 or 3 things. You want them, and then you're gonna have no business. It doesn't make sense.
It's just confusing. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not bad to have 2 businesses, but just be clear that what you're marketing to whom at what time. And a lot of that is, if you do have like 2 or more businesses, it's pre-qualifying the people you're talking to, Like, if you have a dog walking business, the first question is, do you have a dog? No? Oh, yeah. Well, that's all right. But I like your lipstick. You'd look really good with like some eyeliner. What, here, I have this tip with this product that I use, right? So it's kind of just steering where you want the conversation to go without being like, I sell this, buy my stuff change, Yeah.
And exactly, that high pressure versus if we're always helping, ABH, always be helping people and thinking, how can I help this person or this business, even if they never do business with me? And I've done that, guys, and people that have never bought from me or hired me have referred me, have connected me with people. It's amazing. Always be serving, always be helping, giving value, and asking, how can I help? Whether you're asking them, how can I help? How can I support you? What do you need?
Yeah.
Or thinking to yourself, how can I help? Versus, I hope they buy my thing because I got to pay off this or pay off that, or I got to fill this thing or do this.
Yeah. If you come to anything from a place of need, which I know is a challenge as an entrepreneur, sometimes becomes sketchy and you're like, I do need to pay the rent, but it's really kind of, putting that to the side. That's your needs. Put that to the side and really do come from a place of serving. Like, how can I help? And I think you'll find that when you do that, but not to the point of depleting yourself, you have to serve with boundaries, right?
You got it. You got it.
Yeah. Then people will start to be attracted, but only if you're clear on your message, right? So if you're not clear, if you're serving, not clear on your message, not clear who you're for, that's going to just make it all like nothing's going to happen. So it's kind of like, like you said, it's that laser focus.
That's the thing, and keeping a tight focus, which is key. What are some of the keys to content marketing to have your marketing heard? Is it a very descriptive title, whether you're doing Facebook, email, or LinkedIn? Is it just I've heard, I've opened emails that said, "Hey," or "Sorry, it's been so long," and I'm like, "Oh, what is this?" And I open, and it's interesting what's got me to open, but. Just in general, what do you find really works for people to actually reach other people? What kind of stuff works?
Yeah, so speak to them, speak to you, right? Always when you create your content, think of your ideal client, the person who you would absolutely love to work with, and write it about them or speak about them, and use the word you. When your subject lines are critical with email, very, very critical. With social media, a great image can be a hook to read, or an interesting subject line, thinking about your first line. Sometimes, and when I say you, I mean, that doesn't mean that don't tell stories about yourself. Don't have the occasional I story, like, I experienced this really interesting thing, and or I went through this process, and this is what I learned, or this, or something newsy. Like, there's a lot of different, but always be thinking, what's the magic, what's the radio station we love, WIIFM, right? What's in it for me? And really, everything you do, you need to approach from a what's in it for me perspective for your clients. And once you start thinking like that, that will open your eyes to not what's in it for you, but what's in it for your clients. What could they get out of this? How will this help them? So that's the number one thing. With that, whatever you create, is this going to help my clients? Is it going to help them either, make a shift in their life, shift their perspective so they're ready to work with me, feel more connected, feel less alone in this world, right? Because somebody else has had a similar problem to them. Give them hope in that their problem can be solved because here's some evidence that it has, or give them a chuckle, or, entertain them, or whatever. It's all about, that's how you connect. You connect by considering the other person.
Fair enough. But before, I was going to ask you for a number two, but before we get to the step two, or the number two secret, I love what you said, and making them feel like there's someone else out there that connects with them, and at least my personal opinion is people are too worried at what others will think about them. They're too worried about being vulnerable or being open, and so we close off, and I don't want to know anyone about me or my story or the real me or what happened or the crap I went through. But in my opinion, that's what allows us to be connected. It allows us to be authentic. People trust us. Like, oh my God, he or she gets it. Oh my gosh, there's someone that gets it, and they totally connect with it and create rapport. Any thoughts on that? Because again, a lot of people, I don't want to look bad, and it's of course it's a world thing, right? People afraid of being judged. But any thoughts on that, June?
Yeah, rejection is like, it's a very big fear, and it's a very human fear, and it's part of who we are, like what's kept us alive and kept us together as a species, right? Cooperation, fear of what, of being outcast by the group. That's a major thing, and it's a normal thing. However, what we do with it is we assume that we know what other people think, right? And that's where we're wrong, because we don't know what other people think. And it's our fear of what other people will think, and thinking that we know what's going to happen when we say this thing. And we don't know, and you're never going to know until you do it. And so something you can do is like, what's the worst that could happen? Right? And how will I deal with that? If I come forward with this story that will be helpful to other people, that I've healed from, not a story I'm still going through, right? But I've healed from it, and it was a painful time in my life, but I came out of it, and I believe this can help other people. What's the worst that can happen? And maybe you're going to ruffle some feathers. Maybe some people, will be like, oh, you shouldn't talk about that time, even though you didn't name them, right? That's the other thing. Never, like, don't don't talk about other people without their
Yeah,
permission
no.
publicly in a forum like this. But yeah, it's something you have to take that risk. You really do. And I mean, I'll tell you, like, at one point I was a spiritual coach. Like, I've reinvented myself so many times, but at one point I was thinking of becoming a spiritual coach, and I wanted to use the word God because that's what source, that's how I define source, right? And someone had told me,
that's your,
yeah, and someone had told me never use the word God. Like, people will shun you. People will run away in flocks if you use the word God and you're not like a Christian evangelist, which I'm not. And so I was terrified to come out. So I started small, right? I put out feelers on like on my Facebook group, and I just like, or not even my Facebook group, on my Facebook personal page, and I used the word God or something. And I think I said something like, does anybody else still call it God or something? And all these people got back to me. Like, I was surprised. People I didn't even expect were coming forth and being like, yeah, that's totally what I, and so I thought people would be like, June is cuckoo nutso. She's a Christian fundamentalist, and now we're all going to run away from her because I used the G word. But instead, it actually brought some people towards me who had the same fear, who were feeling, I feel called to talk about God, and I'm really afraid of how people are going to react. So it actually creates healing when you come forth. And so you're actually doing like the world a favor.
And I mean, being careful to assume what other people think, what other people want, and by the way, anyone that's watching, feel free to ask questions, chime in here. And I think we can be really, really careful to assume, oh, am I going to look bad, or people are going to shun me? But remember, even if 99% of the world shuns you and 1% of the world loves you, I think it's like 75 million people. What is it, 7.5 billion? So it's 75 million people, 1% of the world. Can you serve 75 million people? That's a lot of people. So only if 1% loves you and the rest don't, it's okay. And to your point, a lot more than that. They're like, yeah, no, this is what I say too. So it's really interesting what we see, what we learn. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not for everybody. Like you just said, we're not for everybody. And a lot of it is like, these fears, they stem from like childhood. And so a lot of it is like, that dialogue you have with your inner child, and knowing that you can take care of yourself regardless of what happens, right? That fear, that inner child, that scared little kid is going to be okay regardless of what happens.
Right on. And that fear of not being good enough, or not feeling good enough, or what if someone doesn't like it, or only get one like, or some of the greatest feedback after an event I've had is people that I've only gotten a couple likes, or I've gotten 0 likes, but everyone watched it after, or no one's commented, but so many people said, this was great, James. I'm like, well, can you please comment or like it? And a lot of people, like, even I watch a great YouTube video, and probably a lot of the time I'm like, hey, what else is on, versus, okay, I better like all of these. And it's so avoid worrying.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes of social media. Like, that's the thing, and you might not get any likes or loves on a video, and then a year later someone's going to be like, I watched that video, and you're like, what video? And it's the video that you were like, nobody loves me.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Nobody liked it. Why am I doing this? Because it's all planting seeds. And this is a good perspective. That's the second secret, I would say, is look at everything you do in your marketing as planting seeds, right? You're just planting seeds. And then when the right other conditions hit your ideal clients, they'll be ready to like kind of harvest that. That's a bad analogy, but you know what I mean? Like, you're sowing for the future. You're preparing for the future.
I agree. And you're sowing, so you're growing. And I mean, there's no intentional alliteration there, but you're sowing and then you're growing. But it's your point. You're dripping seeds, you're dripping content, you're giving value, you're getting people to know you, to like you, and trust you, to your point, June. And that way, either when they need it or when changes, something happens, like post-COVID, there's going to be a huge need for a lot of awesome people doing a lot of different things, because people are growing. It's the new normal. Things are never going back to the old normal. So, okay, well, how do I do this all online now? Or how do I do this in the new world? Or how do I do this when everyone's working from home? And people are going to need people. So now is a great time. And usually after something big and bad happens, the economy goes up as well. So great opportunities as well. So I love that you mentioned that. It's just avoid what people think. Avoid caring what people think. Just go and do your best, and avoid worrying about judgment, because you'll never be successful. You never reach the people you want if you worry about what will they think, or judgment, or am I going to reach enough people with this target message? To your point, talk to your people. Just as talking at people or talking to everyone, talk to the person who you want to serve.
Yeah, listen. Try and listen as much as you if you're constantly putting out content and you're not getting anything in return, reach out to your target market and like find out if, you know, you might be way off base with what you think they need.
It's like, what do you need? What do you want? Fair point.
Yeah.
This has been great, June. Any last thoughts for people? And of course, then how can people reach you?
Yeah, I would just say, you know, about the visibility thing, just it's okay to do things bad at first. You know, realize when you're starting out, if you're new, that that it's okay, like that you will get better. You'll get more proficient at this. It's a skill, right? Sharing, communicating, marketing, it's all a skill. And the more you do it, the better you get. So give yourself some slack, right? Realize you're being more judgmental on yourself than most people will be.
And that's the thing.
Yeah, and just do it. And then if you find that it's not working, then, you know, talk to your target market or get some help, right? Yeah.
Talk to people, interview the people, work with people, ask them what they want. Do you want this? Do you want that? What do you want?
Yeah.
And, yeah, I think to your 2.2, it's just, you know, done. Remember that done is better than perfect, and perfect is never done. So just do it. It'll not be perfect the first time you do it. That's okay. At least you're doing it. You're getting somewhere.
Yeah. And count the final piece of advice I would say is give yourself props and count your successes by the actions you've taken, not necessarily by the results you're getting, until you've given those results a fair amount of time.
True.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
You have to give consistent effort over time to see if something actually works. Doing it once or twice and like nobody liked my post or nobody opened my email or whatever, that's not enough time.
Yeah.
And building a business is like, it's an overtime type of thing. So
Yeah. No failure, only
so
feedback, right? Iteration, and reiteration. And again, no failure, only feedback on how to do it different or better next time. That's been amazing.
Exactly.
How do people reach you? How do people get in touch with you?
You can find out more about me at junemorrow.com. I also have a Facebook group called the 3C Club for new service-based entrepreneurs. That's the number 3C Club. And if you go to junemorrow.com, there'll be a pop-up for a free training that you can get on how to give an elevator pitch. So you talked about the people who are like giving out the multiple cards and not sure what to say, or just like buy my stuff or whatever when you're networking. So if you really want to build a bridge when you're networking online or off, take that 30-minute free training on how to attract your ideal client in 90 seconds or less.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
This has been great. A pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for the value. And yeah, guys, go get the free training from June as well. Highly valuable because, again, you can be a flashlight waving it around in a room. No one's going to see you. Shine a laser. People are going to see you. And even a laser will start a spark if you shine on a piece of paper. So it makes things happen. Thanks very much for being with me today, June.
All right. My pleasure.